My boyfriend and I took a trip to the Oklahoma Zoo last month and had a blast learning about all the animals. Nearing the end of our zoo visit, it was close to closing time and had begun to rain just a little. We were at the back of the zoo on the Ozark Trail exhibit, which is a half-mile long trail that winds through and over natural Oklahoman habitats such as forests, plains, swamps, and even man-made structures like barns and sheds. We were kind of rushing through because it was getting late, and even though it was drizzling, it was hot and humid and taking its toll on us. Besides a couple of stragglers, the huge exhibit was mostly empty. We approached the halfway point, a part of the trail that led into a barn to showcase nocturnal local fauna, and my boyfriend said he was about to pee himself and couldn't hold it anymore. There were benches in this area, so I said I'd wait while he backtracked to find a bathroom. He ran off, and I figured I'd check out the barn while I waited, assuming it might be cooler in there. The barn was dark. It housed owls, raccoons, a huge bat tank in the middle, and some various other animals along the shelves. The only light source was a dim black light in the bat tank and some low heat lamps for the owls and some lizards. It was also extremely humid and stuffy, so I passed over the animal shelves quickly and stopped for a sec to admire the bats. It was a floor-to-ceiling glass tank, and it was kind of hard to see, so I cupped my hands around my eyes and kind of leaned into it. As I was doing this, I felt someone press into me from behind and squish me against the tank. I thought it was my boyfriend at first, but I smelled pretty strong BO and knew it wasn't him. He wears deodorant and definitely put it on this day. I thought it was some kind of joke and waited for the person to leave, or like maybe they were just being pushy trying to see the bats better. I felt him breathing hard, and he kept pushing harder and harder against me. I was panicking, but in denial at the same time. Like, why would this guy be doing this? I tried getting away from him, but he wouldn't budge. I could feel his hands groping my sides and hips, and I was actually embarrassed that he was grabbing and pinching the roll of fat above the waist of my pants. I remember how awful he smelled and how loud his breathing was, even though the bats were squeaking and making a ton of noise. The cell phone in my back pocket vibrated really loudly, and he jumped, and when it started ringing, he finally let go and took off. I didn't see which exit he left out of, or even what he looked like because I was too stunned to turn away from the bats. I felt shocked and humiliated and scared and sexually violated for the first time in my life. I wanted to leave the barn, but I was scared that if I moved, he'd come back. I wasn't sure if he was still there or not. The phone rang again, and I saw it was my boyfriend who was calling. I answered it and he said he couldn't find me. I told him where I was, and he walked in a couple seconds later. With my boyfriend there, I felt safe again and saw that the guy was nowhere in the barn. I'm sure he was long gone. I wanted to ask my boyfriend if he'd seen anyone leaving the barn, but I knew I'd have to explain it to him, and the idea made me feel physically ill. I thought about telling zoo staff before we left, but again, I'd have to relive the story, and I didn't think they'd be able to do much with my description. It didn't occur to me at the time that they might have had cameras in the barn. I did eventually speak over the phone with park security a couple of days after and leave an anonymous tip about the barn. They wanted me to make a report with the police, but I declined. I feel better about it now and thought I'd say something to you all. I haven't told my boyfriend or anyone but the zoo security, and I don't think I will anytime soon. It's a lot easier to talk about it when it's anonymous. Even though there was no chance of me anticipating an attack in a barn exhibit at the zoo, many insecure young people might feel invincible, like I did, when it comes to sexual attacks. Please always be vigilant and careful, especially when you're in a dangerous situation. There is no telling whether or not you'll be a target, no matter what you look like.
I was really curious about any creepy encounters I might have had when I was little. I asked my mom, and she starts explaining this situation to me. I was 5 or 6 when this happened at a local zoo in a small town in Ohio. We were around the big cat exhibits, and I was in love with the cheetahs at the time. And one of the exhibits had about 2 or 3 ocelots that liked going near the fencing around their enclosure. There was a tall wooden fence about my height, and then heavy-duty wire around the enclosure. But then there were holes big enough that I could surprisingly stick my chubby kid hand in. I remember thinking that the ocelots were just baby cheetahs, and I was trying to pet one of them. We started walking around the rest of the zoo. I got cotton candy stuck in my hair and almost pissed myself when we went into the aquarium because I was terrified of sharks, etc. Basically, we were having an awesome time, and kid me was excited about all the animals around. That was until my mom says that she noticed a woman watching us intently. We wound up heading back to the big cat area because I wouldn't shut up about the ocelots. Mom says she got slightly nervous when we were walking back because she thought that the woman had been following us around. Mom had a stress-related mental illness, and I guess she got a little paranoid. But in this case, it was a good thing. This woman comes up to me as I'm watching the ocelots, and I remember thinking that she looked like a movie star because she had blonde hair and bright red lipstick. She says something like, "Come with me, honey. We'll go look for a zookeeper and see about letting you pet those kitties." So I nearly shat my pants at the opportunity. I ignored my stranger danger lessons and took her hand. As I'm walking, I remember getting this feeling that I'm going to disappoint the hell out of my mother because I know going off with a stranger is bad. But ocelots, man. I'm just beginning to get led away when I hear my mom shout. I turn around, and this is where things get hazy. I remember seeing my intimidating, frizzy red-haired giant Amazon of a mother barreling towards me and the blonde lady through a crowd. Mom scoops me up and I wave goodbye to the woman as she stumbles away looking pissed off. And that's where the memory fades out. Mom says she had to physically wrench me from the woman because she kept yelling, "This lady is trying to take my baby." I started crying when the woman tried to lead me away again, and apparently I shouted that she wasn't my mother. Looking back on this, I just feel really emotional about it, and I thank my mother profusely like an ass, because I now realize what a close call it had been.
I'm a young woman, just turned legal adult in my country. I'm pansexual and I have a girlfriend. I'll call her Cassie in this story. I'll tell you now that I have ASD and SPD, which is sensory processing disorder. Loud crowds and sounds can easily disorient me and cause me to have a meltdown where I am unable to talk properly or at all. It's not that I'm a socially anxious person or that I'm non-confrontational. I'm exactly the opposite, but my neurological disorder comes into play. Cassie and I, for our 1-year anniversary date, decided to go camping for a long weekend. We ended up straying outside of the capital's limits, and we decided to go to the zoo the next day, and I, having an almost childish love of animals, was eager to go and see everything. The day arrives, and it's a very hot and clear day, so we both dress in tank tops and shorts to keep cool. When we first got there, we slathered on sunscreen on each other to keep ourselves from getting Irish tans, and then in our giddiness shared a short kiss. Right off the bat after pulling away, I noticed this guy watching us from behind Cassie. He was balding, a little taller than Cassie, who was 5'2", but shorter than me since I'm 5'5". He was portly, with a Charlie Chaplin mustache and a pair of sunglasses on. I guess for some people still, seeing a pair of girls together who aren't sisters or best friends, it's weird. but this guy automatically made me feel nervous. I tried to brush it off as paranoia, and we bought our tickets and went into the zoo together. I thought that the guy watching us wouldn't be there, but nope. At every exhibit we went to, every time we stopped to look at an animal, he was there, or next to us, staring at us. Cassie is a pretty observant person, so she noticed and tried to take loops to avoid him, but he just kept popping up. Eventually, though, he didn't show up alongside of us, so we thought he was done being creepy. Around this time, I didn't put in my foam earplugs, a way to keep me in loud, noisy places a little while longer, and so everything was starting to get to me. By the time we got to a cafe that's there, I wasn't able to speak hardly at all, so I went nonverbal. Cassie had to use the restroom, and since it was quiet in there, she figured it was best to leave me alone. I was sitting at a table, nursing a chocolate milk and some poutine, when, yup, creepy guy walks over. Before I can protest, he sits right down across from me at the table and starts talking. "So, what's your name, pretty girl?" I didn't answer, just stared at him. "Come on, don't be shy. What's your name? Was that girl your girlfriend? Are you a lesbian?" Those questions he kept repeating, and I was struggling to verbalize a strong go away to him, but all I could do was squeak. Yeah, not very threatening. So, he keeps going, the questions getting a little more sexually aggressive. "You ever been penetrated? Ever use a really big dildo on yourself or your girlfriend?" He even asked me if I'd ever had a threesome with my girlfriend. Finally, I had it when he touched my cheek and smirked. I literally stabbed his hand with a plastic fork I grabbed from the poutine. When he hollered, I smacked him. Like I said, I'm a confrontational person, and I stormed into the bathroom. I used an app on my phone to alert Cassie of the situation, and we both agreed to tell the staff. Creepy guy was still at our table when we returned, and he gave us a look. I couldn't tell with the sunglasses, but I knew he was stripping me and my girlfriend. We told a worker what was going on, who immediately alerted the zoo security. Creepy guy got up and was about to leave when he was apprehended and started telling the guard that I was the one who harassed him. Big mistake. Angrily, I typed out a message explaining everything, to which Cassie confirmed, both of us ready to crucify this pig for even trying to pull that after what he did. Luckily, the guy believed us and had the guy escorted to his car. In apology, we got free behind-the-scenes passes and got to check out some really cool stuff, so that was fun. But later that day when we were leaving, the security guard pulled us aside and gave us his number. Apparently, while he was yanking the guy out, he said something that made this guy sick. He told him he just wanted to have a threesome with us, and one way or another he was going to penetrate a couple of lesbians. Word for word, that is what he said. It stuck in my mind and I can't get it out. He gave us his number because he didn't want this creep attacking us and getting away with it. If we needed him to act as an additional witness or the like on our behalf, he would be glad to. To the security guard, I want to thank you so much for going up and above the call of duty. Luckily, this guy never harassed us again, and I hadn't seen him since the zoo.